Ladies and gentlemen, hello. It's my pleasure to welcome you for this lecture on responsible leadership with a special focus on global insights. We have heard now 13 lectures on responsible leadership from all continents. And it's now harvesting time to look at things that are common in these lectures. It's the beauty of diversity, a diversity of speeches, of cultures, of colors, like a beautiful garden of flowers, different perfumes, different colors, different size, different age, that comes together. But it's also the beauty of unity, because we want to discover, are there common values in all these lectures around the globe? Are there common convictions? Are there common leadership styles which are responsible or less responsible? And then it's also the beauty of unity in diversity, or diversity in unity. So this is what we try to harvest in this lecture. My name is Dr Stückelberger. I'm the director and founder of Globethics.net and also a professor of ethics with a specialization of business ethics, political ethics and environmental ethics at the University of Basel in Switzerland. I was in leadership positions as researcher, as director of institutions, as a director of a development agency for development cooperation in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and others. And in that sense, also a personal commitment to look for responsible leadership globally and in our specific context. Globethics.net, which organizes this lecture series, the Globethics Academy specifically, is a global network on ethics, as the name says. We have 137,000 participants around the world in 200 countries. We have an online library, we have conferences, we have many activities where many of you are also involved or can be involved just on our website www.globethics.net. Now let's come to the content of our lecture. First we want to rephrase, recall the 14 lectures that we have in this series around the globe. And it's very fascinating, and then we can come to the challenges, to values, and especially lessons learned. What can we observe? I take, so to say, the best roots in these lectures and put them together for a meal, I hope, that we can have together. But first, to recall these lectures, we went around the globe with China on business ethics aspects, on Indonesia on interreligious aspects, from India also interreligious. In Indonesia it's also on specifically gender aspects of Islamic ethics. From Russia on public administration and ethics, to Europe the intercultural communication, multicultural communication, to Turkey on business ethics. So we covered from Asia, like the sun, coming and going from east to west. And we continue to Africa. In East Africa, issues of anti-corruption. In Francophone Africa, a young person who presented the role of young leaders, of young persons becoming leaders, how to do that. To South Africa, Southern Africa, with the question of higher education and responsible leadership. Professors, deans, how do they behave as responsible leaders? Then we went further to North America and South America. In South America, bioethics and research ethics. A researcher is a leader. We went to North America. Political ethics is an important part of leadership. Political leaders, how can they behave responsibly? And then we went to the global level, the international community, the UN, the governments together, how can they build a community of responsible leaders? That's the tour d'horizon around the world. Now, I'd like to look at what are challenges that have been mentioned in all these lectures. And I mentioned some of them. China, not by chance, but as a hot topic, health, ethics, consumer rights is top on the agenda of concerns of people. So how can responsible leadership address a consumer rights, for example, in a country like China? That was the topic and challenge of this lecture. In India, the peaceful coexistence of religions is again a current hot topic in India. And we, in this lecture series, do not hesitate to name these controversial and hot topics in order to contribute to solutions. In Indonesia, the question of how to interpret holy texts, the Quran, in a way which can make the link between old century, millennium-old texts and the present world. This is what we call a hermeneutics, interpretation of holy texts. The same is valid for the Bible, for Bhagavad Gita, for other holy scriptures. So we see that responsible leadership goes from politics to consumers to religions, and we continued for business, for geopolitical factors even, public administrations, public governments, how they can be responsible leaders, like in Russia, like in Turkey. But then also, and that was the lecture from Europe, multicultural communication is a big challenge not only in Europe but around the world. How can we communicate in multicultural societies where we have the migrants, where we have foreigners, where we have citizens? They are inclusive or exclusive, and they have to live together. So it is a leadership challenge how to communicate in this multicultural context. As a political leader, you cannot speak to your citizens as all are Swiss or all are Germans. In Switzerland, in Germany, in France, in Egypt, wherever we are, we have always multicultural societies. We went to Africa, the corruption issue, justice and peace are hindered by corruption. Corruption is an obstacle to it. How to deal with it as a leader, to be a leader of integrity. We have heard from South Africa, leadership in higher education, how to position a university or a high school in a way that people and parents and students know this is a credible institution. This has a leadership with integrity. In Francophone Africa, this young person raised an interesting challenge, how to enable young people to become responsible leaders, how to have mentors who help young people on this way, and how to give them the trust and the space to become and also exercise leadership as young people in their respective field. In the US, in this lecture, we heard about political ethics as the art of compromises, how to deal as a leader with polarized societies, with fundamentalisms in plural, religious, economic, political fundamentalism, in order to build an inclusive community of people in a state. In South America, the focus was on bioethics and research ethics, as I said, the sensitive topic of medical research, of bioethical research, of genetically modified plants and organs. How do researchers take their responsibility? And finally, on the UN level, this question of common values in this multiplicity of states, of ideologies, of political and economic systems. So this broad variety of challenges show that responsible leadership is a topic for leaders in the different sectors: business, research, academic, religious, NGOs. Was not so much a topic here, but of course in the NGOs we have the same question and challenge of how to be a responsible NGO leader. And looking at that, we see that responsible leadership has a component of individual person. Me as a personality, I have to be a responsible leader. How can I be it as an individual? But the individual is not isolated. The individual is embedded, hindered or enabled in the leadership role by a political frame, by legal frame, by regulatory frameworks, by processes, by compromises. So how to deal with this individual component and the structural component of having an impact in a society where we have all kinds of limitations in our space of action. And that leads me now to the next observation, number 3 and 4, the values. What could we observe in this lecture series as values? Are they so controversial that we cannot say, oh, there is nothing like a global ethics, global values which unite humanity? I think we can see both. Of course, across countries, across cultures, we have a lot of diversity. Not only a diversity of persons, and I spoke about the beauty of it, but also a diversity of values. Sometimes very conflicting. How to dress, how to believe, how to behave, how to decide what kind of political system. Behind that, different views. The importance of freedom. More freedom in economy, less freedom. More regulation for banks or less regulation. Behind that are values and value dilemmas. More freedom of decision or more fairness and justice by more regulation is a classical dilemma of values, which we observe not only in one or the other continents, but across the globe. Another classical dilemma which was visible in this is individual and community. How much freedom for the individual in his or her values and convictions, and how much should we be embedded in a community and respect the majority of a community, of an ethnic group, of a religious community, of a political community, of a village, of a school. So this tension between my values and the values of a group is, of course, a key challenge for leaders. If you are a student leader of your class, or your university, or your high school, or your primary school even, or if you are a leader of your parents' group, or if you are in a sport club, wherever, this question of individual values versus community values is a key challenge for responsible leaders. But to be honest, when I looked at these lectures, we have seen that we have a lot of common values and a lot of common virtues. Nobody would say, I'm against peace. Of course, we all are looking for peaceful living together. But then, of course, we have conflicts around how to come to peace. Do we need military strength? Do we need negotiations? Do we need military intervention? and all the rest. And also on the level of virtues. Virtues are personal behaviors, benchmarks for my behavior. But also there, all human beings, we are united in the fact that we need trust. We need to be able to trust each other, because otherwise relations are not possible. The same in Africa, the same in Asia, the same in Latin America, or Europe, or wherever you are. Trust, and trust is built on honesty. If I cannot trust you because I think, yeah, you are not telling the truth, you are lying, you have a double standards, you have double ethics, you have hidden agenda, I cannot trust you. This is common across cultures. Of course, the expression of trust is different. The way to come to trust may be different. But the core that we need, honesty, to take this example, is common to humanity. So responsible leadership is based, for example, has to be based on honesty. This is just an example of values and virtues that were raised. If we want to overcome corruption, if we want to have good leadership in a university, if we want to be researchers, we must be honest researchers with our results. If we cheat our research results, we have a credibility challenge. Now, from all these lectures, let me now come to some lessons learned. In these lectures, when I looked at them, I picked some key words and messages, sentences from the different authors. And I don't go back to the authors. It's almost a puzzle. Go back, look at them, and see who was saying that. You will discover that what I harvest here are the flowers, so to say, some best sentences, and added some of my own. Now, first about values. Responsible leadership means values-driven leadership. A responsible leader has a vision. We need to have a vision. What do I want in my life? What do I want with society? Where should we go in my organization? Second, a responsible leader has an inner compass of values and rules. A vision means I want to go this way. And this is very important, and that makes the difference between a leader and a manager. The management role is very important, but the manager is more executing visions of an organization, but a leader has to help to set this vision, to promote this vision, to develop this vision together. That's then a responsible leader. For a responsible leader, ethics is not nice to have, it's a must. That's when we speak about values-driven leadership. It's like the center of your activity which keeps your heart, your head and your hands together in a credible way. The 3 H, head, hand and heart, is really important. And what keeps it together? What I do, what I say, what I believe. Behind that, I need these common values, this inner conviction, this inner compass. Another aspect was mentioned in communication. The responsible leader has to be a good listener. We always make these speakers trainings to be a good speaker. But it's rare that leadership training includes how to be a good listener. But in order to be credible, to be heard, to be seen as a good leader, we need to be good listeners, to listen to the needs of the people, to listen to the proposals, to the criticism also of those we are entrusted, or entrusted to us. Responsible leadership also includes handling the succession issue in a responsible way. We know that many conflicts arise around the fact that people, once they are in the leadership position, they don't want to leave anymore. They want to keep power as long as they can, for material benefits, for honor, for whatever reasons. Now, responsible leaders are those who, at the beginning, when they start a position, already say, okay, I have to prepare my departure when I start a position. And that's a very sensitive issue. And in many election trainings, I'm involved in Africa, for example, in election trainings, to train political candidates on two things, among others, or three things. How to win, of course, is very important. But if you don't win, how to be a good loser is very important. And the third, if you win, how to be a person who can leave your position after the mandate is over. So responsible leadership means to deal with that, to be ready to pass power of your position to a successor by respecting the laws, the rules and decisions of authorities, of superiors, of governance, of elections. So responsibility, I'm coming back, and that's another issue which came in from these lectures, has to do with to respond. Respond to the needs of those who entrusted this power to the leader. So how to respond to that? So responsibility means respond to the needs of the people. And that leads me to the next point. Responsible leadership is virtues-driven leadership, not only values but virtues, these personal attitudes. And I start with integrity. Integrity became a famous word around the world, across cultures. It's not easy to define what is integrity, but we all feel, oh, that's a person of integrity, or that's a person I don't trust, that something is wrong with that person. Integrity leads to credibility, and credibility leads then also to material access to credits. You see this jeu de mots, as we say in French, this link between credibility, credits, and even credo. Credo means my belief, my values, my faith, my convictions. So integrity means somebody who is authentic, and that's another point, authenticity. Be what you are and can be, and do not try to copy another leader. Authenticity has to do with integrity and credibility. Sometimes we feel, oh, this person may be an intelligent person, a good leader, but something is not authentic. He plays a role. That's not him. He has a mask. Honesty has a longer wind than the lie. This is not easy to implement. Sometimes we feel, yeah, some lies are needed in order to survive. In extreme exceptions, a lie may be needed, but honesty as a basic virtue is key. Modesty wins over arrogance, one of the lecturers said. Again, that's not easy, because reality seems to prove the opposite. Arrogant politicians may win in short term the elections, but in long run, the modest leader has the longer win. Thankfulness. It was interesting. The Indonesian speaker, she said, yes, just be thankful as a leader. Creates credibility, makes you modest. It's not all your success. It's the success of the community. It's the success of all of us. So express this thankfulness of all what you get, what we get in life as a part of responsible leadership. Another aspect, which is a lesson we heard from the US, the perfect is the enemy of the good. Moral purity hinders debate, persuasion, and community building. Sometimes you have the feeling, yes, a good leader must be a perfect person, man or woman. That's not true. The best leader is not the perfect one. The best is the honest one, the one who can even say, I made a mistake. And that is an important part. I'll come back to that. Another aspect, wisdom, means being able to be as a leader long learning, integrating the wisdom and the knowledge of others. I must not know everything myself, but I'm able to integrate from others. If you are long learning, you are long earning, one of the lecturers said. And that leads me to some remarks or fruits we harvest in this, from these 13 lectures on decision making. Leaders, by definition, have to take decisions, often final decisions, together with others or alone. How can we do decision making in a responsible way? First, one speaker said, ethical decision making is tough. It's very tough. How to know what is ethical? Never presume that your ethical values are shared by all. If you take a decision based on your values, then you may be alone, or you may be a minority, but you still are convinced it's the correct decision, even if it's not shared by everybody. But more complicated even, you may not recognize that something is an ethical dilemma until it's over the game. So it may be that my awareness is not enough. I have not enough awareness of the ethical dilemma. I'm a researcher, for example. I do something in good faith. 5 years later, I see that, oh, that was a disastrous development with negative impact. So how to discover the ethical dilemmas before I take decisions? So to take a decision in full awareness of the ethical implications. For that, we often need the help of others who help us to sharpen our knowledge, our vision, our capacity of ethical decision making. So be courageous also when you feel alone as a responsible leader. Responsible leadership has to do with courage. Some leaders just go with the wind. They take whatever is the majority. They expect that the majority wants to hear, but then this leader is not credible. People know that today he's telling that. Tomorrow, if the wind changes, he's changing. So responsible leaders need to be courageous, even if they are not loved by everybody. And that's a real dilemma. That's why we need this inner compass, this inner strength, this inner conviction which tells us, yes, I'm sure that is the correct way. But that does not mean that we are infallible. A responsible leader must not be perfect, as I said, but open to critique and correction. I may really fail because, or have a wrong decision because I had not all the knowledge or not all the information, or I was, through my values, maybe blind for some developments. Then it's a learning process. So a responsible leader is a learning leader. When in doubt, get trustworthy advice, one of the lecturers said. It means that, yes, if we do not know, then how can we get the best advice to overcome this situation? For decisions which were wrong or with unforeseen negative consequences, ask for pardon. That's why a culture of forgiveness is part of a responsible leadership culture. And that's not easy. It is very difficult sometimes to ask for pardon. We know it in our personal relations, and the same is true for leadership positions. But still, if we are able to do it, it's part of our integrity. Another aspect which was mentioned in these lectures, no identity, no communication. What does it mean? It means we need to have an identity, our own convictions, our own identity, as the others we expect from the others. So strengthening identities, even in a pluralistic way. So responsible leadership means to help to build identity, communication and community. And that is a key challenge today, that we have many people who lost their identity. Ethnic identity, religious identity, political identity, national identity. And what is the result? Fundamentalisms, struggles, nationalism, going back in order to regain a kind of identity, which is often directed towards the past and not the future. So a responsible leader should help to build identity, but in a future-oriented way, in an innovative way, not just going back to solutions from the last 50 or 100 or 500 years. These are a few insights in what we heard and harvested from these 13 lectures on responsible leadership. Let me come to the end and with a hint to resources. We encourage you to use resources available for further really deepened studies on what is responsible leadership. Of course, the best is still the direct encounter with leaders you feel these are responsible leaders. How can I learn from them? But also from negative examples, how can I avoid to become like this and that? But then to have the intellectual honesty also to look what others say about how can we become responsible leaders. We have our online library, www.globethics.net, a global digital library on ethics with a lot of resources. Online, for free, you can download 1.7 million documents, full text. And I did a little research. For example, if you enter the keyword governance, you get 27,000 hints, documents that you can download. On leadership, 19,000. But then, of course, you want to narrow down. You cannot read the 19,000 documents. So if you search for leadership in the title of the document, you come still up with 3,500 documents. If you search specifically for the term ethical leadership with quotation marks, then you come up still with 370 articles or books. And with the term responsible leadership in the title, 240 articles or books. So use this source, join our community of globethics.net so we can learn from each other, and send us your suggestions also, your experiences, your cases, a short video clip of somebody, of a scenery where you say that was a decision of a responsible leader. And leadership is on all levels. A child can be a leader in terms of his sister or brother, younger sister or brother. On all levels, we have a specific leadership role to play. So we don't think only on the big world leaders. A leader in a sport club, in a youth group, in a scientific research, in a classroom, in a business, in an NGO, wherever you are, take your responsibility in a responsible way and with integrity, with honesty, with fairness, and that's what we could harvest from this lecture series. Thank you for your attention. We will keep in touch. Goodbye.